Hey guys, it's Mel. I'm going to be showing you today the easiest way to make tapioca pearls, and I found this out through 4 painstaking days of making different flavors of tapioca pearls. The easiest way is to go to Safari, search up tapioca pearls, and buy them online. All jokes aside though, if you guys are looking to do this, it takes about 2 to 3 hours, so block off an afternoon and take your time with it. Alright, so for those of you who are willing to join me on this journey today, guys, let's start off with the first flavor of tapioca pearls. We're going to be grabbing a bowl of cherries, cutting them in half, and taking out the pits. We will need about half a cup of cherries, and the rest that don't fit in the half cup we will be using for a storing process later on in this video. Now that all of our cherries are pitted, we're going to grab a pot and turn our stoves onto low heat. We're going to be using the half cup of cherries and placing them in a pot along with a quarter cup of water, a quarter cup of sugar, and a half cup of tapioca flour. Now on low heat we're going to be mixing and mashing. I saw the cherries were still quite big, so I put them in the blender for about 30 seconds and poured the mixture back in the pot. So pro tip, if you guys are going to try this recipe out, blend your mixture before you cook it. Then we're going to want to mix it till it's a really thick and gooey consistency. Once we've achieved that, we're going to take it off the heat and wait for it to cool. Once it has slightly cooled, you're going to be adding a quarter cup of tapioca flour. You're definitely going to want to add it in parts as it makes it easier to fold. I remember the first time I tried it, I added it all at once and then I thought I had added way too much flour. So I tried taking the dough out of the pot and kneading it by hand, but that turned out to be a really bad idea because my hands got all sticky and it actually took me like an hour and a half more to knead than when you fold it in the pot. Once your dough is ready, you should be able to poke a hole in the dough and the dough will rise up and try to fill that hole back up into its normal shape. And once you have achieved that, you guys can start rolling the dough out, cutting them into small pieces and shaping them into the classic tapioca pearls that you want. If you're going to be varying the sizes of your tapioca pearls, you should consider how well they're going to cook in the boiling process. For example, if they're too big, they might be undercooked, and if they're too small, they might be overcooked. Now we're gonna go ahead and boil our tapioca pearls, and if you decide to double the measurements in this video, I would recommend splitting the cooking of the tapioca pearls in half because in previous experiments when my measurements were doubled and I tried cooking them all at once, the tapioca pearls ended up sticking together and losing their form. For mixing, I would only recommend using a spoon. Every other spatula that I had tried in the past when making tapioca pearls caused them to lose their shape and stick together, so in conclusion, just use a regular spoon. Also, for the heat settings on the stove, I start off by bringing a pot of water to boil at 7. I didn't bring it any higher than that because then it would cook the boba pearls in a shorter period of time and not cook them as well as we want them. Once our pearls have risen to the top, we're gonna go ahead and put a lid on the pot for 3 minutes, then drain our tapioca pearls and put them in a bowl of ice cold water. So for the storing process, we're going to be using the rest of the fruit that we had cut in the beginning of the video, and we're going to boil it along with a cup of water and a half cup of sugar. Once it has been brought to a boil, take it off the heat and let it cool completely. You can combine the cool stirring mixture and the drained tapioca pearls in a mason jar. They should be stored at room temperature and will likely last 3 days. On the 4th day, it might smell a little funky meaning it will smell like straight up alcohol. You don't have to try the storing process I just did, so the tapioca pearls could really soak in essentially a thin syrup of its own fruit, and it would emulsify the flavor. But fermentation is a thing, so there's plenty of other methods online on how to store cooked tapioca pearls. You can even freeze the pearl shaped dough and boil an appropriate amount every time you want some so it's fresh. In this batch, I made the mistake of not waiting till my dough had cooled after I had cooked it into a sticky and gooey consistency, which made it really hard to fold in the pot, and I actually had to end up taking it out and kneading it by hand, and so it took a lot longer than expected and it was unnecessary. So please guys, make sure you let it cool before you start adding your 1/4 cup of tapioca flour, or in this case an 1/8 cup of tapioca flour. This batch by far was the easiest tapioca dough to mold and shape into tapioca pearls. I'm not exactly sure what happened though, because I did mess up and I didn't let it cool. And also I made the mistake of overcooking them. So maybe if I hadn't overcooked them, they would have turned out fine and it would have had that chewy texture. But since I had overcooked them when I let them sit in the storing mixture overnight, the next morning when I tried them out, they were easily bit through in one bite, so I had to throw it away because they weren't good anymore. They weren't the classic tapioca pearls, so not exactly sure what happened. This was definitely a trial and error of sorts. The third fruit that I had made tapioca pearls out of were peaches, and I think you guys get the process by now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and let the videos that I have play. Alright guys, so I'm about to summarize the tips that I learned over these 4 days in making tapioca pearls that I know I need to make sure I get them right in order to make tapioca pearls correctly. First, you need to stick with the measurements. You need to let it cool after it gets sticky and gooey in the pot. You need to fold in pot unless absolutely necessary to knead by hand. And you only need to boil it for 3 minutes after all tapioca pearls rise to the top. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next week. Sorry that this video was 2 days late, but yeah, thank you guys for watching.